Hello, Dream Dearers. I am Dr. Catherine Polydore and I am from the Nature Art Dominica. I am currently employed as an associate and tenured professor at Eastern Illinois University. Tenure means that by a vote of its Board of Trustees, the institution has extended to me my job for life as long as I do not do anything to jeopardize that privilege. And trust me, I do recognize the privilege because only few professions allow or extend tenure to its employees. Prior to attaining my PhD in educational psychology, I received a bachelor's degree in chemical technology and a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies with an emphasis in environmental toxicology. So, as you could see, my educational journey was a rather interesting one. With regards to that journey itself, I think it's important for me to share with you how that journey began. Before the age of 1, my dad took me away from my mom and brought me to live with my 78-year-old grandmother. The home to which I was brought had no indoor plumbing, no electricity. Right when I was old enough, I had to wake up in the morning to fetch water for drinking, cooking, and bathing. By the time I was 7, I knew how to cook. I was responsible for cleaning the house, taking care of the home because of the deteriorating health of my grandmother. So growing up though, at that time, I wasn't aware that these conditions that by any standards were impoverished. I wasn't aware that I was poor until about the age of 12 when I started going to high school. And I looked around one day and realized, girl, you are poor, dirt poor. And to be honest, I was really ashamed of that, to the extent that after school, I will walk home with my friends but go right past my house because I didn't want anyone to know where I lived. Needless to say that, that upbringing was very humbling, very humbling. At the age of, but prior to that though, I was always a good student and I always believed in sharing and helping and giving of my time. At the age of 12, I became the founding president of the Red Cross group at my high school. At the age of 14, I became a summer day camp tutor. At 15, I became camp director, and I also started to teach Sunday school. So at 21, I actually got the opportunity to come to the United States to pursue a higher education, and I seized that moment. I was like, are you kidding me? Of course I'm gonna do it. So I embarked upon my journey to the United States. However, within a year I got pregnant with my son, and my relationship was already toxic and sometimes abusive. However, during that time, the communication with my dad was non-existent, and that continued for about 6 years. I struggled with how do I continue to be a student? Can I even continue to be a student? Should I go home? What do I do? With the help of the small Caribbean community at the institution, I was able to successfully accomplish my goals. They helped me by giving freely of their time. They helped my son while I went to classes. Sometimes the assistance came in the form of giving me rides to and from doctor's appointments, to and from the grocery, the supermarket. Sometimes it was lending me money to pay rent. 4 years later, there came my daughter, and I was stuck even more, I guess, in a relationship that was becoming increasingly more toxic. However, though, by that time, I'd already begin to reflect on my life and what exactly I wanted out of life. And probably by serendipity, I came across the a brochure actually for educational psychology, and I've always been interested in psychology, like, why did you do that? On I always recognized the importance of an education, but I wasn't aware of the perfect marriage, so to speak, of the two fields. So anyway, I decided to go ahead and pursue a PhD in educational psychology. At the time, I realized that I could pursue that for me. I no longer had to do what someone else wanted from me, but rather I could pursue my own dreams. So, in 2008, after I graduated with my PhD, I actually started a position as assistant professor, and little did I know what the challenges were ahead of me as a black, international, and female professor. First, my students, I didn't actually fit into the mold of what my students had come to expect as a professor. I was not white, I was not male, and I wasn't even American. So I remember that first evaluation that I received from my students, that brought me to tears, and I was convinced that there was no way that I was going to be able to achieve tenure, because in order to get tenure you had to get superior ratings from your students, and they had some pretty unkind things to say about me. And I know I believed that some of that came from a dark place of prejudice and discrimination. But over time, I grew to understand what I needed to do in order to gain the respect of my students. So from day one, I communicated to my students that I am just as good as the other instructor, that I am just as competent as the other instructor, that I was qualified to be here teaching you. Furthermore, I was open to learning from you. So gradually, I gained the respect of not all, but most of my students, and that was good enough for me. So, in terms of lesson learned, I grew to realize that, you know what, that it was important to pursue something that I love, irrespective of the monetary rewards, that the rewards that were important in life were intangible and invaluable. um, I grew to realize that I actually had a purpose. Me, Catherine, out of the 6 billion people on the earth, actually have a purpose, that my very existence in this world is purpose. And therefore, if I can recognize what that purpose is and live that purpose, then my life was meaningful. All right. So, um, in addition, I a lesson that I learned along the way is that success is never achieved alone. Success is never achieved alone. When I look back on how I came to be where I am today, I realize how I leaned on the shoulders of so many people. For some people, I leaned on them more heavily than others, but the point was that I was not able to do it without the help of others. Okay, so success is never achieved alone. um Today, I actually try to live my life by a few mantras, and I will share some of that with you. First, I, you, we all have a right to pursue happiness. I mean, that's kind of what we do, right? Pursue happiness. However, though, we do not have a right to intentionally harm another in pursuit of that happiness. Another thing is being my true self at my very best all the time. This is akin to when I tell my students, do not submit anything to me that you know is not your best work. Do not waste my time. So ask yourself, when you're doing something, when you're about to, if it's for in your work or whatever it is that you're doing, ask yourself, is this my best work? Why not? Procrastination, lack of effort, lack of motivation, whatever it is, ask yourself, is this your best work? And if it isn't your best work, then go back to the drawing board and work on it and make it to your best work. Now granted, your best work might be C quality, your best work might be B quality, but at the end of the day, if it's your best work, you should feel proud of yourself, and I am willing and ready to applaud that effort. And lastly, the golden rule. The golden rule. Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. So that was true yesterday, it's true today, and it will be true tomorrow. Lastly, my advice for Caribbean Dream Darers come from the late Dr. Maya Angelou, who I hold in very high esteem, and she said this: you can only truly be accomplished doing something that you love. Don't let money be your goal. Instead, pursue something that you love and do it so well that people can't stop looking at you. So that's about it. I hope that you got at least one thing from this video that left a mark on your mind, on your heart. I hope that you were able to get some words of inspiration from my story, from my own journey, and I wish you all the best. Go on, first dream that dream, but more importantly, achieve that dream.